Hey guys, what's going on? James here, and in today's video I want to talk about why the Tampa Bay Buccaneers can make the playoffs for the 2018-2019 season. Now, in my previous video, I said the Buccaneers were going to go 9-7, and I asked you guys to make your official predictions down in the comment section below. And a lot of you had very positive records, such as myself. You had 10-6, 11-5, 12-4, 14-2, 16-0. I don't know, but a lot of you pointed out that some of the games that I said the Bucs could lose, they could also win just as easily. Maybe they do end up beating the Cowboys, and maybe they do end up splitting with the Saints rather than just getting swept by the Saints. If both those things occur, simply two games, the Buccaneers have an 11-5 record based off of my prediction, and they're very easily a playoff team, I feel. So how can the Buccaneers make the playoffs in 2015 or 2018, not 2015? Jesus, why can the Buccaneers make the playoffs in 2018-2019 season? Well, there's a lot of different reasons why. The first reason that I want to talk about is an improved running game. The Buccaneers' running game last year was atrocious. It was the last year of Doug Martin before we cut him, and things did not go well. I was expecting the good Doug Martin to come out, and he was going to have one of his better seasons. That season that he had a couple years ago when he almost led the league in rushing. But unfortunately, we got one of the bad Doug Martin seasons where he was injured, did not perform well, had very low averages, and just proved to be a very ineffective running back. Combining in injuries to multiple guys in the running game, as well as also on the offensive line not performing well, and then also getting injured on the offensive line, and things just didn't go well. Fast forward to right now, and things have changed a little bit. You have Peyton Barber, who emerged last year as the overall best running back that we had on the roster after he eventually replaced Doug Martin as the starter. And you have Ronald Jones, who you just invested a second-round draft pick in, who a lot of people are buzzing about. They say he's the new Jamal Charles, the new Chris Johnson, whatever you want to call it. The man is speedy, and the man is dangerous when given open space. You also have to add in the fact that the Buccaneers have a very different offensive line than they had last year. Donovan Smith's coming back. At left guard, you now have Ali Marpet there, which I feel is going to be a big boost towards the running game. You also have a new center in Ryan Jensen, who was a top 10 center last year, which I've said multiple times, and he's one of the highest paid centers in the league. At right guard, you have a little bit more of a mystery with Caleb Benenoch, but still, even if Caleb Benenoch is going to be your starter for this season, he's proven that he's been able to hang on this roster and be a fringe starter whenever he has played. And then at right tackle, you have DeMar Dodson, one of the best right tackles in the league. So combining those two things together, I definitely would expect the Buccaneers to have a very improved running game, considering how last year they had one of the worst, if not the worst, running games. You couple in the fact that Peyton Barber's coming back, Ronald Jones is coming into this team, and you have some improvements along the offensive line. That's huge. And if you get a good running game going, you get a good passing game going, you just overall have a productive offense, which I think everybody can agree. If you have a good offense, you are a safe bet to make the playoffs. The big thing that we need for Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones is they need to be very good. Ronald Jones has a little bit more leeway considering he's a rookie. He might not get as many carries, but Peyton Barber was good last year. However, he needs to be very good moving forward. You're playing some tough teams in this schedule. You're playing the New Orleans Saints, the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Philadelphia Eagles, among other good run defenses. Carolina Panthers, they have a good run defense as well. So Peyton Barber especially, I need him to come out and just overall be a very productive running back, and I think he definitely does have the ability to do that. Moving on to the next point that a lot of people have shown that this is how the Buccaneers are going to win games, especially the first three, is the defense needs to improve from last year. Last year, the Buccaneers defense was very, very not good, specifically at getting to the quarterback. Last year, we were obviously the worst team in terms of overall sack numbers. I think we had 22 sacks, league worst. That's expected, with 22 sacks as a team. There's players who get close to that, so 22 sacks as a team is terrible. Fast forward to now, and the Buccaneers have done a lot to improve on this overall defense. Let's start with the defensive line. So before all of the additions that the Bucs had, your starting defensive ends were Robert Ayers, William Golston, Noah Spence, rotational type guy. Will Clark, who came on later in the year, rotational type guy. Ryan Russell, rotational type guy. And your defensive tackles were Clinton McDonald, who I feel should have stayed with this team, and Gerald McCoy, with Chris Baker rotating in. And it was a mess. Stevie Tukolavatu wasn't there because he was hurt. It was a mess. The defensive line was really not good last year. Now you have the additions of Vinny Curry, Vita Vea, Jason Pierre Paul. That takes, and Beau Allen, Mitch Unrein, those guys. That takes off a lot of the pressure from the guys who were here last year. Obviously, Robert Ayers is gone, but William Golston, Noah Spence, Will Clark, these guys are going to benefit from these new defensive linemen coming in because it's just more bodies, more good quality guys to add to this rotation, so it takes off a lot of the pressure that some of these guys were facing last year. Unfortunately, we did not bring back Clinton McDonald, but we still have Gerald McCoy. Gerald McCoy is one of the best defensive linemen in the league. So I think that the Buccaneers are going to have a little bit better of a time getting after the quarterback. And then obviously moving on to the linebackers. Our linebackers have always been good. You have Quan Alexander, Levante David, and you have Kendall Beckwith coming back. Not only to mention that you have a Darius Glanton coming back, who I feel is a very good backup and a very good special teams player. And you have Jack Sitchie. Now, Jack Sitchie, I've said this multiple times, he was a 6th round pick for us in this past draft. However, he had the talent to be a 3rd round pick if he would have just stayed healthy. So if Jack Sitchie can stay healthy, that arguably makes him more valuable than Kendall Beckwith. In a way. I don't think he'll be the starter. I think Kendall Beckwith will still be the starter, but in terms of overall draft value, Sitchie would have the edge there. So I obviously like what's going on with our linebackers. For cornerbacks and safeties, obviously if the defensive line is doing their job, then the secondary is going to be able to do their job. But that didn't stop the Buccaneers from still making some high-note additions. At the cornerback position, they obviously brought Brent Grimes back, which I feel was one of the bigger moves of the offseason for us. You still have Vernon Hargreaves, who they're going to be using more in a hybrid role. They're going to be using him on the outside. They're going to be using him on the inside. They're going to be using Hargreaves everywhere. You also spent 2 second-round picks on Carlton Davis, who's the biggest cornerback that we have. I think he's a little bit bigger than Ryan Smith. Yeah, he is. And you also have MJ Stewart, who can slide into that nickel role as well. So you have options at the cornerback position now. It's not just Grimes and Hargreaves, and that's pretty much it. You have some guys to work with, and you don't have to be forced into using options that might not be as good as other options that you could have on the team. You don't have to put out subpar cornerbacks. So you've invested a lot in the cornerback position this past offseason. So now you have arguably 4 guys who could potentially, you have 2 guys who are already starters, and then you have 2 other guys who could potentially be starters. That's a pretty good cornerback depth chart, if you ask me. Add in Ryan Smith, who's been in this team's system for a couple years now, and the quarterback position is very improved. Safety is where it gets a little bit trickier. You have Chris Conte, who's returning as a starter, which I like Chris Conte. A lot of people say I look like Chris Conte, but I understand if there's a little bit of doubt in Chris Conte's ability. I think that he's a good player, but a lot of people have pointed out that he gets burned in certain plays, and he doesn't perform very well. And I think a lot of that was just because he didn't have a lot of help just overall in terms of the defense. He was probably matching up with guys one-on-one, which isn't usually the job of a safety. Safeties are usually there just to support the back end of the defense. And Justin Evans, who was a breakout player for the Buccaneers last year, a lot of people expect him to break out even more this year. So in terms of overall safety depth and safety starters, you could do a lot worse. In terms of the safety depth, you have Keith Tandy, who I feel is arguably one of the better centers or better safeties on this team. I think he's better than Chris Conte in my opinion, and he could end up starting for us. Who knows? It just depends on how everything shakes out in training camp. You also add in that the Buccaneers drafted Jordan Whitehead in the 4th round. And they have a couple of guys like Godwin Igwebuike, which I think I said that right. I have no idea. And you have a little bit better depth at safety position. Josh Robinson is there too, but he's a special teams ace in my opinion. If you could label a guy as specifically a special teams player, it would be Josh Robinson. So at the safety position, it's a little bit suspect, but I feel it's very manageable. And especially considering that if the defensive line does their jobs, like I said, with this new and improved defensive line, then the safety should be just fine, because you're going to force quarterbacks to make mistakes. They're going to throw errant passes, and then you're going to be able to take advantage of that either with a swat or a turnover or whatever you need to do, or just an incompletion. We'll take any of those. We'll take incompletions, We don't have to get a million turnovers. We just have to create pressure and force mistakes. That's what the Buccaneers need to do. So, why do I think that the Buccaneers can make the playoffs? They have an improved running game. They have an improved offensive line. And they have almost an overhauled defense in general. The only position group that wasn't changed in terms of its overall starters for the most part is the linebackers and the safeties a little bit, but honestly we don't know. Jordan Whitehead could end up being great and turn out to be a full-time starter, as some of these guys could. So it's very, very interesting what the Buccaneers have been able to do this past offseason. They made a lot of improvements at positions that they were very weak last year. They had one of the worst running games. They improved that. They had the lowest sack total last year. They improved the defensive line. So the reason that I think is the Buccaneers can make the playoffs and do even better than the 9-7 record that I've predicted for them is because they made so many improvements. They poured so much money and draft capital into improving the positions they were weak at last year, and I think that you can take advantage of some of these teams who have lost some pieces. The Philadelphia Eagles, I know I said that the Buccaneers were going to lose to them, but they're not. The Buccaneers can win any game this year. They can win any game. You're playing a Philadelphia Eagles team who's lost a lot of pieces. Maybe you split with the Saints. Maybe you end up beating the Cowboys later on in the year. Maybe you can beat the Falcons away. The Bears are a very winnable game. The Browns, the Bengals, I think the Ravens are a winnable game. You can beat the Panthers a couple of times. You might be able to sweep the Panthers. There's a lot of games that the Buccaneers can. Obviously, they can win every game, but there's a lot of games where I think the Buccaneers, you could even have them be a favorable team in some of these games. So I know that I said that the Buccaneers are going to finish with a 9-7 record, and I still stand by that. And that still could be a playoff record, guys. We have no idea. But I think it's also possible that they can win 10 games. They can win 11 games. I don't think that is insane. I think it's possible, and it all depends on how their running game does, and it all depends on how their defense does, because both those units are the most improved, and we spent a lot of money and a lot of draft capital there. So let me know what you think about all this down in the comments section below. Do you think that the Buccaneers can make the playoffs? And if so, tell me why. Do you think that the Buccaneers can't make the playoffs? And if so, tell me why. I'd love to hear all of this down in the comments section below. I hope you guys all enjoyed the video. I'm coming out with videos every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Sunday at around 4 to 4:30 p.m. Probably 4 p.m. just to be 100% safe. This Sunday, I will be going to the training camp, and I have recently just bought a new camcorder that I will be using to record some stuff. So if you guys want to come by, say hi. I know a couple of you guys are going to be there. It should be fun, and hopefully we'll be able to just hang out, talk Bucs football, maybe just overall have some fun times, hang out. Maybe you guys can even be in a video, who knows? Maybe, because I do plan on uploading training camp vlogs and talking about some stuff. So yeah, maybe you guys can be in a video, and we can just I can overall get your guys' takes on some Bucs stuff. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and look out for the next video on Friday. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, I'll see you in the next Buccaneers video or live stream. But until then, goodbye for now, guys, and as always, go Bucs!